number one on the bike coming in. Number one at playoff number one.
Yeah, welcome back. It is SMX Insider. We are previewing the second playoff round coming up this weekend for the SuperMotocross World Championship in Texas. We're the Jasons, Wygan, and Thomas. But look, JT, we've been trying to explain how this playoff thing would work for 2 years now. Reset points, hybrid tracks, two-moto format, Olympic scoring, all that. But look, that's just a detail right now. The takeaway from playoff one at Charlotte is Jett Lawrence and to an almost same degree, Eli Tomac are back. And I don't care what kind of track or what kind of format that is the news, at least in my mind.
Yeah, at so many of these races, I feel like I know what we're going to see before we go in. But this weekend, there were so many different variables, returning riders, and where are they going to fit into this new track, new format, all these things. Like, there's so much change. I just got it wrong. Jett Lawrence came out and he really showed us how special he is. That was my takeaway from the weekend. Jett Lawrence, everything is in front of him. The ceiling has never been higher for Jett Lawrence, and I think he proved that. We've seen him do a lot of winning, but not in these circumstances, coming back this quickly when everything is kind of stacked against him. It didn't matter. He still got the job done.
Yeah, that's why. So, yes, the track's going to be different this weekend. Maybe some riders will be better, some riders will be worse. But I think the only question we have with Jett was he going to be healthy enough? We know he can win on any type of track when he's healthy. I think answer that. I almost think just as big is the fact that now we've seen Tomac is also ready. And Tomac, he's proven to be good on these speedway type tracks. I don't see any reason why that'll be different this weekend. Tomac should be up there again, I feel.
Really, for me, the key for Tomac is making sure he's up there on the starts. And he was able to do that this weekend. We talked about him using that specific scoop tire that he likes so much. Make no mistake, it is better on the start. And if he likes it on the rest of the racetrack too, then I think that gives him a little bit of an edge. So racing is simply better when Eli Tomac is at his best. And I think we're going to get that for the next two rounds. So as we know, this championship can go a lot of different ways with an escalating point system. But I can't find a way that Eli Tomac is not in the mix from here on out.
Yes, so if we can stamp that Tomac and Lawrence will be good again in Texas, we will also move on to other topics in this episode, a byproduct of that. First of all, what does the third place finish for Chase Sexton mean? Well, our statistician Clinton Fowler thinks this could be the most important race of Chase's career coming up this Saturday. We'll also get into more dominance from Hayden Deegan in the 250 class, all in this episode of SMX Insider. Hey, big interview time. We are joined by one of our favorites in the pack here, Harri Kullas from Estonia. We love the story. Actually, when you came over last summer, had some really good rides in Pro Motocross. Then this year you squared up, did enough to get into the SMX playoffs. We'll talk about Charlotte and Texas, but first I just want to know, when did you hatch this plan to maybe 2024 race enough to possibly get into the playoffs? When did you start thinking about this?
I think it started in the winter. When I had a deal with Brazilian Championship, and then I looked at the calendars. It looked that it's possible to do like 9 or 10 rounds out of 11. I just hope that the calendar doesn't change in Brazil, and I did a couple races there. And at the same time, when I obviously had an injury in March, but when my first race was in May there, then I saw that it's possible to do like 9-10 rounds, and if I score like average 20 points per round, I still could make top 20 in the SMX. Because last year I had a chance to go LCQ, but it was a bit too difficult with the money wise. So I thought this year I try to go straight to the finals and make it happen. So I don't have to do the LCQ, and then it makes sense or I can at least race every round in the finals.
So for you, Supercross and a rhythm lane we saw in Charlotte, how experienced are you with that kind of riding?
So I've raced a lot of like Supercross and Arena Cross in Europe, but they are like way smaller. So I knew the American will be bigger, even if you have only one rhythm section. But even those doubles like in the field before the pit lane straight, like that was like for me the big thing, like because the landing had like full of ruts. So I was like, I have to focus on that double and to make it clean, and don't make mistakes. So it was second lap when I tried to follow Kenny to make those doubles clean, but then I cased the second double completely with my both wheels, so it was pretty bad. So it's just because I have not big experience on the rhythms, and because the American guys they ride a lot Supercross when they are younger, so the rhythms they are so much easier, so they don't have to think about that. So for me, when I did track walk on Friday, I was so nervous. I was just like, obviously I was overthinking because I've done some races, so I have the rhythms are pretty okay, so I can manage it. But yeah, it's just still like everything was new, big crowd there, so it was like everything was new, and I was overthinking too much. I was stressing out and so nervous. And but yeah, we made like some changes after the Friday's practices, because like I had not one day on the Supercross track, so I had nothing on the suspension. So we just figured out every session, and we improved Friday and then a little bit on Saturday morning. So that was pretty good. It was pretty okay in the end, I think, for the first round. But yeah, definitely I was really nervous for the first SMX.
What about Texas this weekend? Are you a little less nervous? Track's obviously different. What are your expectations now?
So obviously no practice this week. Just I flew to my friend's place, San Francisco, so we can stay somewhere in the week. And but I think it will be easier this weekend, because obviously we have found the balance with the bike. We found some clicks on the bike, so the bike is more or less there to start on Friday. So I only think what I have to do is focus on the track and just try to enjoy.
All right, we'll see you in Texas. Better luck this weekend, but just awesome that you're living the dream there and getting to do it. So congrats on just getting in. Let's show you how and when you can watch this weekend's playoff round 2 from Texas. Race day live qualifying coverage will begin at 9:30 a.m. Eastern on Saturday. It's another day race, so qualifying in the morning. And then we'll have the SMX Insider pre-race show at 2:30, and gates will drop at 3 o'clock Eastern. Those are the exact same times that we had over the weekend in North Carolina, so you should be used to that. There is also a same-day delay re-air on USA Network that starts at 6 Eastern, so tell your friends if they're not watching on Peacock or the SMX Video Pass, check it out on USA Network Saturday, 6 Eastern. 30-second board. These are the hot topics heading into Playoff 2 this weekend. Well, we know what's on the line now. Not only $5.5 million, but the brand new trophies that we got to unveil during the press conference Friday before Charlotte. It's a little symbolic. They've got a globe because that's so many riders from so many different countries coming here to compete. And in the 4 pillars surrounding that is the 2 series, Supercross and Motocross, coming together. And the other 2 layers are, of course, the riders and the teams and OEMs also supporting this championship. So pretty cool. People actually gasped a bit when the white cloth was lifted off these trophies.
Yeah, they were beautiful. I thought it was a great way to kind of kick off the press conference and show these riders what they would be chasing outside of that $5.5 million. And that would be a beautiful trophy to have on your mantelpiece one day. And speaking of a rider who already has a trophy that looks similar to that is Hayden Deegan. And he came out swinging this weekend. Now, this is a rider, he didn't do a lot of winning down the stretch, right? He won the title with 3 motos to go, but it wasn't the dominating style that he had early on. I think he put a rest to all of that. He swept both motos. He came from the back, passing riders on his way, really without a lot of trouble. And that's the scary thing for the rest of these riders. It looked kind of easy for him. So I don't know where we go from here, Weech. He looked almost unbeatable on a 250 this weekend.
Yeah, there were like 3 laps in the beginning of the first moto where I said, well, maybe this is going to be different. No, it's not going to be different. In fact, if anything, it was more of the same, just at a higher level. And we had some hype for RJ Hampshire versus Deegan, and in the most symbolic way, RJ goes down in a rhythm while Deegan's doing a quad that no one else was doing. So better luck this weekend, guys. Maybe someone can turn the tables, but he certainly served notice with that. But there was probably one other 250 rider who could leave this weekend with his head held high, and that's finally the emergence of Julian Beaumer, who has shown great talent, great potential. He's got the Red Bull KTM ride, but we have not seen a breakout result until now. That was phenomenal. Yeah,
this really came out of nowhere. I think everybody seemed to be surprised, but Julian Beaumer himself. He was very stoked on the podium, almost like he knew this was coming. It was like a movie he had seen before. But I think for everybody else, bravo, incredible performance. Him pulling that 5-second lead in Moto 1 was incredible, and then he backed it up. He was there all day long. So where do we go from here? That will be the question. There's a ton of talent behind him, but in the big picture future of Julian Beaumer's career, I thought this was a big moment because it was confirmation for all of the bosses, whether here in North America or in Austria, for Red Bull KTM looking at, hey, what do we do with this kid? I think now they know.
Now, also a neat byproduct, by the way, of having a playoff race in NASCAR country. I mean, literally, Charlotte Motor Speedway, the zMAX Dragway is part of that complex. You could see it off in the distance. Is that we had a lot of NASCAR drivers come and visit, and then also the SMX racers were going to visit them. So we saw Jordan Smith, who is a North Carolina native, got to take a tour of the Stewart-Haas NASCAR race shop. And then even better, Ryder DeFrancesco and Cody Schock actually got their hands dirty. They got to do pit stops at RFK Racing. That was really cool to see them involved. And then even deeper, things you didn't know happened. At one point, Clint Boyer, great NASCAR driver in his own right, now a broadcaster with Fox, he actually knocked on the door and was hanging out with Ricky Carmichael during our show, kind of an exchange of Supercross, Motocross, and NASCAR broadcasters. That was neat. I saw Ty Dillon stop by to say hi to RC as well. So a lot happening there. And then Noah Gragson, actually the driver, was there at Track Walk on Friday and gave his thoughts.
Yeah, it's a super cool track. I was able to come out here last year for the race and watch the first ever SMX Championship race, and then to be able to come back. I know a lot of the riders, so they're also fans of NASCAR, which is cool. And AP's my guy. AP's my guy. I love Aaron. He's a fan favorite, and he's pretty good on the dirt bike.
Yeah, this is all really cool. And at the end, we're race fans, right? So everybody has the mutual respect, and they come over. We go to some of their races too. You know, Jordan, this is the home race for Jordan Smith, so I'm sure that was cool for him to get involved in a sport that it's literally in his backyard. So I love to see that type of stuff. And if they came and were able to actually see the race on Saturday, they might argue that the biggest action of the weekend came in that 65 World All-Stars race, because those kids, they blew my mind, Weege. They are absolutely going for it. And I know Carter Gray didn't get the win. He was docked for jumping the finish line. But I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, it was the moment of the day when he decided, you know what? Probably going to get punished. Probably going to lose the race. But I'm going for it. I am going to jump this finish line. And I think it got people out of their feet in a way that, you know, Jett Lawrence and Hayden Deegan and all the rest did too.
Yeah, I think that was the loudest the crowd was the entire afternoon. They loved Eli Tomac leading and winning a moto, but I think they cheered louder for Carter Gray. Now, the AMA did tell them before the race, do not jump the finish line jump. So once they tell you that, you got to take a penalty when you do it. I'm sure the second place rider, Chase Brennan, would have argued, well, I would have jumped at 2 and I would have maybe been close enough to beat him. I was following the rules. So you got to enforce the rules. But look, anyone that watched our show, anyone that was in the building, they thought Carter Gray won, and they cheered for him like he won. So I still feel like he's a winner either way. The rules are the rules, but they're 12 years old. I don't know if they're going to listen to him every time. I'm a parent. You can tell them. Doesn't always mean they're going to follow it. Good job, Carter Gray. That was spectacular for sure. This was not spectacular. How about all this hype? We're so excited. First gate drop, and we have a red flag restart almost immediately. Poor Jalek Swoll. He told us on Friday, JT, he was so proud that he made all the rounds this year healthy, and he's out immediately.
Yeah, this was a big hit, and this is not a good week for Triumph Racing. They announced the departure of Joey Savacci from the team, and then they're kind of leaning into Jalek Swoll. He's been the shiny spot, whether it was Monster Energy Supercross or Pro Motocross. They kind of had their hopes all into him, and then he made it about 20 yards, as you mentioned. So thankfully he got up. In the end, after the red flag, he was okay. We don't know if he'll be at in Fort Worth this coming weekend, but big picture, thankfully he's okay, and we were able to continue racing. Now, unfortunately, Jalek Swoll was not the only big crash we saw all weekend, and this started on Friday. Huge crashes, whether it was the start or actually in the practice portions of the day, Weege.
Yeah, so let's see. Justin Barsha down hard. He ended up not racing. Jason Anderson crashed hard. He tried to go on Saturday in practice, was off the pace. He's out with a back injury. We hope these guys come back this weekend. And Casey Cochran, who actually had a shoulder injury that he was nursing as he came in, then he had a huge crash, bruised up his hip. Not as bad as it looked, but not good enough for him to be able to race. So that's a bummer. So now we just kind of watch the clock to see if these guys can come back for this Saturday. For a little more on Barsha's status, Will Christian was able to catch up with him.
Yeah, it's been difficult. It was feeling really good yesterday. It was good to be back on the track with the boys, and just made a little mistake, kind of went off the side of the track a little, hit a tough block, went flying, pounded my whole body. My neck's locked up today, and just everything's hurting bad, so we want to be smart about it, regroup, get a lot of points next week, and that's the plan. So yeah, we'll regroup, get the body feeling better this coming week, and be back in Texas. That's all we can do.
And now the SMX medical update. We bring Dr. Joe McGinley of the McGinley Clinic back. Well, we had spent a lot of time on this show talking thumb injuries this year. Maybe we talked too much because Jett Lawrence made it look pretty easy to bounce back from a thumb injury. How do you think he was able to do this quickly, Joe?
Well, it was impressive. Again, thumbs have been the topic all summer long that we've been chatting about. And, two of the major injuries, Tomac and Lawrence, they were up front battling the entire time. So they've recovered, that's for sure. It was impressive to see Jett out there racing as hard as he was for the amount of time he had to recover and get off the bike. But, if you heard some of his interviews, he was doing all the right stuff. He was in physio twice a day. He was really pushing the edge as far as recovery and aggressiveness. But the other important point is these injuries aren't all exactly the same. With Cooper Webb, with Eli Tomac, with Jett Lawrence, they're all slight variations on this particular injury. And depending what you had done, what the approach was on the surgical repair versus non-surgical, and how you manage it afterwards, that's where you're seeing the difference.
Well, talking about the other riders that weren't able to race this weekend, namely Jason Anderson, Justin Barcia, Nate Thrasher, assuming they're going to try to get back onto the racetrack this upcoming weekend in Fort Worth, how do you approach that? Is it, we hear these words thrown around, recovery versus active recovery, and then you just think about the pure rest, trying to heal up too. What do you think the best approach is, big picture, for something like that is not a structural problem? They're certainly in pain, but they know they need to be their best self this coming Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, they're all going to be sore, right? That's just part of the sport. But the biggest thing is you touched on there was just making sure there's nothing structural. So making sure you get x-rays and MRIs if needed, and making sure that the problem is clearly identified. If it's bruising, hematomas, stresses of the muscles or bones, those are things that you can recover from during the week. It might not feel good, when you get there to Friday, Saturday for the races, but these guys are pro athletes, they're elite athletes. They'll be able to push through it and get back out there. So yeah, this week's going to be about recovery. It's about decreasing the inflammation, making sure that these areas are identified and that the anti-inflammatory treatments are in place to decrease the swelling, decrease that irritation of those tissues. And then hopefully they'll get some time on the bike towards the end of the week, make sure they feel good and are confident and comfortable on the bike before they get to the starting line.
All right, we'll definitely have our eyes on them, and we'll see you next week. All right, so everything we've talked about so far here, these are the details. But the big headline is Jett Lawrence, speaking of injury recovery, JT, 66 days out of thumb surgery. I don't know if he's 100%, but he was certainly good enough to win. And I got to throw it to you because I think you were trying to vocalize as loudly as you could how difficult or even impossible this task of winning this quickly would be. And then he did it.
Yeah, I cannot express appropriately enough how impressed I was. This guy to come back in this setting with Chase Sexton having that much momentum on this stage with so little time of riding. It was only 3 weeks on the motorcycle, and to do what he did, I think it just speaks to the greatness that we are witnessing. And I use that word very carefully, greatness, because I believe that's what this is. He should not have won. He should not have been able to do this. And that's the thing. In most every situation, a rider comes in, and we saw this. We saw Cooper Webb. We saw Eli Tomac both come back to Pro Motocross with much more time to prepare. They were nowhere close to this level. So for me, I look at things logically. I like to analyze and I say, well, yeah, Jett should be okay, but something that would mimic their performances in Pro Motocross. This was so far past that and so much of a higher level. It's scary to think of where he will be one day when everything's firing and he's his best self in his prime. I don't know if that's tomorrow or 3 years from now. This kid could rewrite every record we've ever seen. And I know what that means when I say it, but I'm saying it right now.
I cannot disagree with you. I cannot. Look, as a rookie, he's the 450 motocross and supercross champion and the first ever SMX champion. And what's the one thing that could maybe derail that? Getting hurt. Now he's proven that he can bounce back from that. Now, there could be worse injuries. There could be longer layoffs, but he is checking every box, and he's only 21 years old. But on the other end, we do have to give a shout out to Eli Tomac, who we also had a lot of questions about throughout 2024, again coming into these playoffs. And let's not take anything away from that first moto win. And he kept Jett honest right to the end. Jett's future is bright, but Eli Tomac's not done.
Yeah, both things can be true. This was an incredible performance from Eli Tomac. This was Eli getting back to being the Eli that we used to know and love, right? And we've seen flashes of it. St. Louis comes to mind. We know he still has it in him. The question is, can he harness that same level every single weekend? But when I look at these racetracks and I look at the way, just his demeanor, the confidence that he was showing us, even at the press conference, I left the press conference saying, that was a little bit of a different Eli, the way he was willing to answer questions. You could just see a pep in his step, and he showed that on the racetrack all weekend long. So it bodes very well for him, and you're exactly right. Jett's performance should not overshadow how great Eli was just because he didn't win the overall. This is the best Eli Tomac we've seen in a very long time. Now, that was all great news for Jett Lawrence and Eli Tomac. Let's go to the other extreme of sentiment and momentum and, dare I say it, confidence. Chase Sexton did not have the weekend he wanted, and we all knew that this would be a disaster if he's coming off a Pro Motocross Championship. He has all the momentum. He's won so many races in a row, and he really had everybody reeling, and he comes in and cannot beat either of those two. And I'm going to say especially Jett Lawrence and either moto. That was a big moment because I truly believe Chase Sexton is very sensitive to confidence levels and momentum, and he doesn't think big picture. Like, he gets very caught up in his own head about what's going on at the moment. This was a tough look. When Jett Lawrence has only been racing for 3 weeks, comes back in and not only beats you, but is able to pull away late. And that was Chase Sexton's forte. Late in the motos, he could take advantage of these guys. And not only could he not do that, he actually lost ground to them. So for Chase Sexton, this is going to be a very big week. He needs to regroup, kind of just try to erase that from his memory. And I would spend all my time watching pro motocross races. I would watch the race where he passed Jett Lawrence in Southwick and pulled away. I would watch where I just absolutely gapped everybody at Unadilla and try to remember like some sort of mind eraser going into Fort Worth, because he does not want to think about what happened at Charlotte in any way, shape, or form.
Now, a couple other details, if you are a fan, that you could check out. The inside track VIP areas, yes, inside the racetrack, are up for grabs both at Texas and Las Vegas. This is new. We've seen some animations of some elevated sections where you can look right down over the start. Occasionally, we're able to let a few people into a few key areas of Monster Energy Supercross, but there's no experience really, I don't believe, in racing like this. You're not allowed to get this close to action in 200-mile-an-hour motorsports. JT, you live down there. You're there every Saturday. It's something special.
Yeah, I really think this is going to be a great opportunity. Remember, these are limited quantities, so make sure you jump on this if you're so inclined. I don't think you're going to have an opportunity like this, or you in the past you've never have, right? I hope that we can continue to offer things like this moving forward, whether it's Monster Energy Supercross or Pro Motocross. But this is certainly a first, and I think the people that do take part, they're going to go around telling everybody, hey, you have to do this in the future.
That's cool. And also a couple other things, that Progressive Fan Fest on Friday. We had a lot of fun with our live podcast mashup show. We'll do it again 5 p.m. in Texas and again 5 p.m. Friday in Las Vegas. So come join us for that. We had pit bike racing. We had autograph sessions, practice with the riders, the press conference that the fans can attend. And also in the pits, they debuted SMXJerseys.com. This is the first time this sport has really had authentic looking replica jerseys of real riders with their old logos and sponsors on the jerseys. So check those out either at the merch truck or SMXJerseys.com. We're talking like Travis Pastrana, James Stewart stuff, amongst others. So get them while they're hot. Oh, SMX Facts time. If you're ever going to watch one of these segments, this is the one to watch, because our man Clinton Fowler here, the statistician, says, Clinton, you think this is the most important race of Chase Sexton's career coming up. And this is a rider who's won 2 450 championships. Why is this one so critical in Texas?
I do, Weege. I think this is going to be the biggest race of his career. I think it's 2 reasons. One, it's so critical for this 2024 SuperMotocross World Championship. And I think it's an incredible piece for him mentally entering to the 2025 season and moving forward and having to go head-to-head with Jett Lawrence. If he wins this weekend in Fort Worth, he'll end up going into the final round with a 10-point advantage. That 10-point advantage would mean he only has to finish second in the triple points paying round in Las Vegas. He would control his destiny in a significantly greater way, which I think not only is there a win for just beating Jett, but having that comfort ending in would be amazing. The problem is when you look at the head-to-head stats between Jett Lawrence and Chase Sexton, They've faced each other in 34 mains and motos in their career. And the advantage is Jett. He's won 26 times versus Chase winning 4 times. And that, JT, to me is the tough one. And critical piece here, if he doesn't win and he gets second here at Fort Worth, he's going to be down by 2 points. If he gets third like he did this weekend and it's Jett and Eli, he's going to go into that final round down 6 points, JT. So I just think this is a super important race for Chase.
It is, and I look at it 2 separate ways, but they both come back to the same point. First, I believe that Chase Sexton is suffering a mental block when it comes to Jett Lawrence. Now, we've seen him pass him, we've seen him beat him, but I think in general terms, he struggles to get around Jett and dispatch him and just beat him straight up. That is something that he has not been able to do on a consistent basis. Secondarily to that, he is entering a dangerous territory here where the championships he is winning, the best rider that he's got to face, his main rival, is not finishing those series. So that asterisk that we hate to see come with championships, people are going to start to bring that up. You think about 2023 Monster Energy Supercross. Eli Tomac didn't finish the series. He left while he had the points lead. What happened in Pro Motocross that year? Jett Lawrence beat him straight up. He was not able to beat Jett Lawrence. Come into 2024 Monster Energy Supercross. Jett Lawrence wins. Chase Sexton can't do much about it. Then Chase Sexton gets the championship, but guess who didn't finish that series? And guess who left while he had the points lead? Well, I would say Hunter and Jett were battling for the points lead, but that's what you're going to hear time and time again, is that argument is that Chase is winning not because of his own merits, because his rival is not there to beat him.
It's a little more cut and dry, Clinton, when we get into the 250 class. You can talk physical, you can talk mental, you can just talk pure data. Hayden Deegan is ruling the roost, and it's looking very, very difficult any other pathway to a title to beat him for this SMX World Championship.
Yeah, I mean, Hayden Deegan just came out and dominated. And you know what? He said that he was going to do that for the most part in the pre-race press conference. Now, he then went out and backed it up and had 1-1 motos. Absolutely incredible. He was fastest in both of those motos. Maybe most impressive is he had to go through every one of his main competitors. He had plus 14 on the positions gained. He started 9th at the first lap in the first moto. He started 7th in the first lap in the second moto. So it wasn't like his starts were great. He just was faster with speed, faster and better racecraft. Just incredible. And maybe most important is his competition faltered. Like, it was a bit of a rough day. Tom Vial, 250 East Supercross champ, he went 4-7 for 5th. He's now down 13 points entering. And then maybe even worse, Chance Hymas, number 5 seed. He went 13th, 20th for 16th overall. He's now down 27 points. And JT, the one that has to hurt the most for this guy, given the talk that Deegan and Hampshire had between them going into the race. But RJ Hampshire finishes 10th for 9th. Now he's down 28 points. I don't worry about this for Tom Vial as much, because 13 points with double and triple point races coming up, not so bad. But for Chance Hymas and RJ Hampshire, I'm a bit concerned, JT, and they've got a hole to dig out of.
No, you're right. The points are a real problem for those two. But I think for Tom Vial, I think another guy like Levi Kitchen, these guys can climb back into it, because let's look at 2023. Now, Hunter Lawrence had a terrible Charlotte race. It was probably the worst race of his 2023 season, but then he went out and won the Chicago round and got the points lead back going into the finale. That can happen. Hayden Deegan, just because he was so phenomenal in Charlotte, doesn't mean he'll be able to back that up in Fort Worth. And these other guys could jump up. And with that double points format, maybe they flip the script and are right back in this thing.
Yeah, double and triple points open the door, but got to be alarming how Deegan came through the pack. It wasn't just 1-1, right, Clinton? It was a dominant 1-1.
I mean, that speed was just absolutely incredible, and you could tell the guy's got the swagger and the confidence right now. So we'll see. We'll see for sure.
Yep, different racetrack this weekend, and like JT said, double points, stakes are higher in Texas, as they always are. We'll see this weekend. Okay, one more time, let's show you when, where, how, why. Well, I guess we already told you why to watch this weekend. It's playoff number 2 at Texas Motor Speedway Saturday. There'll be race day live at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. That's qualifying coverage. That's a really cool show to added Adam Cianciarulo to it. You already have the great analysis of Justin Brayton along with Dan Hubbard and all the other reporters. So you'll get a lot of insight from Race Day Live, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Saturday. A pre-race show again at 2:30 Eastern on Saturday, and then gates drop at 3 o'clock. Of course, this is all on Peacock for the SMX Video Pass. But as a bonus, this is a World Championship. We will have same-day coverage on USA Network at 6 p.m. So tell your friends to give a little glance at what we have going on in Texas. Okay, that is it. We are off to Texas. JT, what are you thinking coming into playoff 2?
Well, the story all weekend weaving was about Jett Lawrence, the return of Eli Tomac, Hayden Deegan's dominance. But I think Chase Sexton, for him, he has to find a way to come out of this race with a silver lining. And for me, look at it this way. He's still the championship points leader. He still controls his own destiny. Everybody's counting him out. This was not a good weekend. Make no mistake about it. But I think for him, he has to find a way to carry on and go into this weekend with some sort of fire. And I think still being the points leader, saying, hey, yeah, okay, you guys beat me, but guess what? I'm still the championship points leader. I'm still a Pro Motocross champion. That has to be it. We'll see if he can make use of that or not.
Yeah, if you pitch this as Tomac and Lawrence are on, and some other riders showed some signs. Hunter Lawrence had a good first moto. I think Ken Roxon will be better. You're basically looking at all the riders we were wondering how good they would be have all proven that they're going to be pretty good, and you have Sexton still in there. That means we got a pretty deep field, so it should be exciting this weekend in Texas. Be sure to join us. Again, Race Day Live kicks it off 9:30 a.m. Eastern, pre-race show at 2:30, and we're racing at 3. Do not miss playoff 2.